Hello, hello. Hey, great show tonight. Jeremiah 31. This new covenant. Is the New Testament the new covenant? Or is there something else that we're missing? Sit tight. We'll be right back. You're going to love it. Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Keysland, Texas, USA, with another episode of TNT Twisted New Testament with Rabbi Stuart Federow from Houston, Texas. Welcome back.
Ta-da!
Don't smoke crack. Welcome, Rabbi.
What did you say about crack?
Yeah. I said welcome back.
I crack jokes.
Yeah, I said welcome back. Don't
Does that
smoke
count?
crack. Don't smoke crack.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Okay, finger dance real fast. Come on. That works for me. Okay, cool. I got to get my fix. Very good. Welcome back, Rabbi. It's going to be a good show tonight. It's conversation.
So?
Conversations that I have throughout the week really makes me look forward to this setting because oftentimes
It's fun.
I get to.
If it isn't fun, why bother doing it?
Totally agree. Totally agree. No doubt about it. So welcome, everybody. Hope everybody's tuning in or able to tune in. I'm temporarily holding off on doing the Facebook Live video feed right now just because I don't quite have enough bandwidth in general to do both places without one of them freezing. And a lot of people really don't understand how the streaming works. Why does Facebook not work? And then they don't watch it all rather than clicking the YouTube link. So better just keep everything straight on YouTube for a while until my internet speed decides to pick up for us all. So
Catches up.
It'll
You're just so fast anyway.
Yeah, I know. Right. Hey, we're fast. It's got to keep up with us, right?
Yep.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. I don't even know who's watching. Are you logged in, Rabbi? Are you?
I am clearly logged in. There's Shawbrim, Fernando, Keith, Michael, Delane, Dawn, Sean, Alligator. So let me put up my hi all.
My channel.
And Nick Mansfield 1.
Very good.
And Carla.
Creator Studio. That's what I want to go. I'm having to pull up on my other computer because I got too many. I need another screen, actually. Or a split screen or something. And so, there it is. Live streaming. That's what I want right there. I'll put that up on the upper screen to get it out of the way. And we're almost there. We're almost there. Yay! There we go. Cool. Oh, yeah. I see everybody now. Hello, everybody.
You're putting up another screen?
No, this is for me. No, not a green screen. I know that's probably what you're thinking, right?
No. You're just talking about another screen, right?
Yeah. Well, I've got two big.
Well, of course, but William, that leads me to say, you screen, we screen, we all screen for I screen.
You are too funny. That's
I'm
funny.
Hysterical.
Okay, cool. Nick Mansfield, I was hoping Rabbi was going to cover all of Jeremiah 31. Never mind. You know what? We're going to cover the important things of Jeremiah 31. It's all important, yes. But
we're correct what it says in the Twisted New Testament. That's what we're going to do.
Right. That's our goal, is to continuously discuss major points of Christianity. And boy, oh boy, I was, I think next week, if we think we can lead into it, or we think it'd be a good thing to just really just take the whole show like we've been doing lately, one topic per show, and get into this whole thing about the prophet and greater than Moses sort of thing. I explained to this fellow like in great and literally showed specific like verse for verse comparisons in like 4 different locations, and he was just like, no, you're blind. And I'm like, he didn't use those words.
No real response, not taking into consideration what you said.
Right.
Just, you're blind. Let's,
Right. Yep.
I've lost patience with people like that, William.
As an overall blanket statement, I'm not. I can talk to 100,000 people that way. But when I talk to one person and I literally show them the proof text that shows that it was Joshua, and they still say, no, you've got a veil over your eyes, those are the people that I'm thinking, I just wasted 3 days and about 12 hours.
That's my point. Right. That's exactly what I'm saying.
On an individual basis. I totally agree with you, for sure. So, all right, here we go. So, hey, Mark Peter, Sean Gibson, Roger Simon, I can't call all you guys out, but thank you all for tuning in.
Michael, Roger, Sean, Mark, Alligator 7, and I think we got everybody else.
Very good, very good. Okay, cool. All right, so we'll kick this thing off. Let's do this. Jeremiah 31. So the just in general, you can't. You know what's funny? I was a Christian for many years before I even knew that the front sixth of the Bible was even associated with the Jeremiah 31 or Hebrews 8 New Covenant. I just assumed the New Testament, well, that's all it was. It didn't need a reason to be there. It was just there. It was years before I even knew that was supposed to be connected. And I think that's part of the problem. A lot of Christians don't even know this either. Because if they did, they're going to tune into tonight, watch the show, listen to what you have to teach us on this, and realize, wait a minute, why is our New Testament called the New Testament then? Based on what the Hebrew Scriptures say, even in your English, you're going to see that that's not at all what your New Testament is. So that's where we're headed tonight.
Yep.
So I will pull up a screen. Meanwhile, Rabbi, let's get busy.
All right. First thing I want to look at is Hebrews 8.
Okay. Go ahead and start talking about these. I've got to put up the screen. I had a very late start, so you'll have to forgive me.
All right, but okay. When William gets it on the screen, you'll see what I mean. But Hebrews 8 is probably one of the most insulting chapters of the Christian's New Testament regarding the Hebrew Scriptures and regarding Judaism, and parenthetically regarding God. Okay, it talks about the New Covenant, which they claim is the New Testament. Let's back up a step. What's the word covenant mean?
Don't ask me. I'm still trying to set up over here. You ask me
questions.
It'll take me twice as long to set up.
I always do that to you, don't I? Sorry.
That's okay.
Covenant is another word for contract, okay, which is another word for testament. Last will and testament means the last will and contract that the person who passed away made. So covenant equals contract equals testament. So they say that when Jeremiah 31:31 speaks of a new covenant, then it's clearly speaking of the New Testament, because testament and covenant are the same, and the New Testament that must be discussed there in Jeremiah 31:31, of course, is a clear expression of the coming of the new covenant, i.e. Christianity. That's why Christians insultingly call, and by the way, some Jews who don't know any better do the same thing, they call our Bible the Old Testament. Well, excuse me, we don't believe in a New Testament, so why in the world would we call our Bible the Old? Okay, that's very important to understand. A person who does not believe in the Christian's New Testament shouldn't be calling our Hebrew Scriptures the Old Testament, because it's an insult.
Okay, Hebrews 8 is on screen.
We're not going to call ours the Old. What? I'm sorry?
Hebrews 8 is on screen. What verse are we looking at?
Start with 7.
Okay, here we go. Verse 7.
Okay.
Sweet. Okay, there it is. I'm going to do the complete Jewish Bible just because they used a little bit of modern English. Okay, here we go. But now the work Yeshua has been. Wait, maybe I'm wrong. But now
7.
7. Oh, 7. Okay. Indeed, if the first covenant had not given ground for fault finding, there would have been no need for a second one. For God does find fault with the people when He says, and He quotes. He
misquotes, but go ahead.
Yeah, he misquotes. See, the days are coming, says Adonai, when I will establish over the house of Israel and over the house. Now, see, you know what? He actually quotes it right. Why did he? That's weird. Let me go to King James.
You'll get to it.
Okay, so I'm going back to King James just to see how well they did it. No, it actually says it right here too. Maybe it's not here yet. Okay, so backing up just a touch, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. That is correct. Now, according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day which I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. Should I stop there?
Really? That's interesting. Where does it say I regarded them not in the Jeremiah 31 passage?
Right. These guys being sneaky. Very sneaky.
Taint there, for one thing. Second of all, well, let's just get through this, because it sets up the insulting attitude of Christianity towards the Hebrew Scriptures. And by the way, the assumption is made by the statement in 8:7, for if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second, is that it pretends that the Hebrew Scriptures, the Tanakh, only has one covenant in it.
Okay.
That's totally wrong. It's not true. It's
Right.
not what it says. And I'm
Right.
not talking about B'nai Noach or the covenant with Noah. I'm talking about with the Jews. It makes it look like there's only one covenant with the Jews. And if there hadn't been fault in that covenant with the Jews, then there wouldn't be a need for a second covenant with Christians.
Right.
Or through Christianity or through Jesus or whatever you want to call it. And it's a misrepresentation from the first sentence here, 8:7, about what the Hebrew Scriptures states. Okay, and we'll get to that in a little while.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So,
verse 10, or we want to go
why
ahead.
not?
Okay. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their minds and write them on their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be my people. Now, I was going to say something. I can't remember what it was now.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, keep going.
Okay,
Let's do this Hebrews 8 part, and we'll go on.
Okay. Verse 11, and they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for all shall know me from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he saith, A new covenant, he hath made the first one old. Ouch. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, but the covenant God made with the Jewish people is not old. It's not decaying. It's not waxing old, and it's not ready to vanish away. Okay, that's from the word go, something that
Right.
anybody who looks at this has to understand. Okay, what's the attitude? The attitude of this whole New Testament, Old Testament bit is like the detergent called Tide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, don't get that old Tide. Get the new Tide, the new and improved Tide, because you don't want that old Tide. It's old. Get the new and improved. And that's literally the attitude they're coming at. My covenant between God and our Jewish people, that's the attitude they're coming at it with, which insults God, which calls God a liar, who promises repeatedly that the covenant between God and the Jewish people is eternal, just like God is eternal. It insults the covenant itself because, as I said, that covenant is supposed to be eternal. Okay, it makes God look like a liar because he said it's eternal, and now apparently, God changes his mind? It just all the way around, it's incredibly insulting. And as I said just a couple of minutes ago, Jews who respect their own faith should never call their own Hebrew Scriptures the Old Testament. That's insulting.
All right.
Okay. All right. So the meaning of the Eternal Testament is in relationship. The meaning of the New Testament in relationship to the Old Testament is that the old has been replaced by the new. Okay. That's first thing. Okay. If you don't mind, pull up Leviticus 26:42.
Okay. All right. Leviticus 26:42.
Yep.
There you go.
Very, very important, especially in response to this insult of Christianity towards the Hebrew Scriptures, towards God, and towards Judaism.
Then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham, and I will remember the land.
Right. So if the covenant with Jacob, start over. If God made a covenant with Jacob, does that replace, denounce, renounce the covenant that God had already made with Isaac? When God made a covenant with Isaac, does that replace and denounce and renounce the covenant that God had already made with Abraham? If the covenant with Jacob had replaced the one with Isaac, and Abraham, if the one with Isaac had replaced the one with Abraham, then why would God even have to bother talking about all three in Leviticus 26:42? If the fact that God says, I will remember my covenant with Jacob, and I will remember my covenant with Isaac, and I will remember my covenant with Abraham, it means every single time God makes a covenant with the Jewish people, it reestablishes and reaffirms the covenants that God had made with the Jews beforehand, because each covenant is in fact eternal.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So Leviticus 26:42 inherently denies the whole concept behind Hebrews 8 and following. Okay, now another thing. Look, I can give you a laundry list, okay, but take a look at Exodus 31:16.
Okay.
For members of the Jewish community, we sing this every Shabbat.
31.
Okay?
Okay, got it. There you go.
Exodus 31:16, 17.
Okay. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and their children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested, and he was refreshed. And he gave unto Moses...
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Stop right there with 17. 16, 17.
Okay.
And if you'll pardon my horrible, horrendous singing voice, V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. Okay. The children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations as a perpetual covenant.
Forever.
The covenant is eternal. Mm-hmm. The Sabbath, and the fact that we Jews keep the Sabbath, is an eternal sign of the eternal covenant between God and the Jewish people. And we sing this every single week. It's a Shabbat song. Mm-hmm. It's part of the liturgy, the Siddur.
Right.
Okay? And look, there's a ton of these, all right? Genesis 17. Okay?
Yep. What verse?
Genesis 17, verse 7 and 8.
Okay, very good. Okay. There we go. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in the generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed, I hate thee, and to thy seed after thee, the land wherein thou art a stranger, and all the land of Canaan for the everlasting possession, and I will be their God.
Right. I will establish my covenant between you and me and your progeny after you in their generations for an everlasting covenant.
One thing they'll say is in their generations, not in all the generations. How do you say that?
Well, wait a minute. If it's an everlasting covenant,
I know, but
it's the seed after you in their generations.
Right.
In each generation, it's an everlasting covenant. The text itself, even if the word all generations or every generation isn't there, the fact that it says it's an everlasting covenant replies to that comment. Right. To be a God to you and to your seed after you. That doesn't say to your seed only for a few generations.
Right.
All your seed after you. Okay.
Yep. Right.
Genesis 7. Don't even look. I'm just spouting these out.
Okay.
Okay. Genesis 17, 12 to 13. Genesis 17, verse 19. Psalm 105, verses 6 to 10. Okay. It's okay. This one we really need to look at because it's right immediately following the passage in question. Jeremiah 31, 35 to 36.
Okay. Let's go back here. Come on, catch up.
Jeremiah 31, 35 to 36.
I got to retype it in. Hang on. Okay, Jeremiah 31. Oh, actually, I didn't have it up there. That's why it's not there. Jeremiah 31, verse 35.
Right.
All right, here we go. Let's put this up now. Boom. Okay. There it is. All right, let me get this off screen too. Okay, so thus says the Lord, who gives the sun for the light by day and a fixed order of the moon and the stars for light by night, who stirs up the seas so that its waves roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. It is fixed order departs from, if this fixed order departs from before me, declares the Lord, then shall the offspring of Israel cease. Oh, that's really good. From being a nation before me. That's juicy right there.
How more clear?
That's
and by
insane.
the way, remember that this is right on the tail of the paragraph in question. Because when Christians talk about the new covenant and they refer to Jeremiah 31, they start with 31, verse 31, but it goes through verse 34.
That's really
However, 35 says
nice.
that you got the sun by day and the moon and stars to give light by night, okay, which divides the sea when the waves roar. But God states that if those objects depart from God, if there's no more sun, no more moon, no more stars, then the seed of Israel shall also cease. Why? Because earth will be destroyed.
Right.
So as long as the earth is here, the covenant between God and the Jewish people is eternal. Okay, you can't can't get clearer than that. Okay, so the point is that there is no replacement of the eternal covenant between God and the Jews. The whole concept of their Hebrews 8:8 is just simply wrong. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to take a look at something.
Okay.
All right. Let's take a look at the first verse in question. Okay. Jeremiah 31:31.
All right, here we go. The new covenant.
And I'm going to
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question about this verse.
All right.
And for which we are going to await your answer.
You know, I hate that when you do that.
I know you do.
Because you know exactly what you're thinking throughout the entire context, and I don't.
All you have to do is just look at it and answer my question.
All right, here we go. I'm looking at it. Everybody's looking at it. What's your question?
The verse reads, "Behold, the days come, saith the Eternal, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah." Right?
Yep.
What is indicative of this verse that shows it is a prophecy of the future?
The days are coming.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. However, you think that's the only verse in Jeremiah 31 that begins with "Behold, the days come, saith the Eternal"?
Gotcha.
Take a look at verse 27.
Okay. "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will sow."
Verbatim. It is verbatim.
Right.
The exact same beginning as verse 31.
Right.
Verse 27 is where this prophecy actually begins.
I see.
And you will see 27 to 30 reflected in 31 to 34.
Right, gotcha. That makes sense. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, but it's very important.
Wow.
So let's take a look at the whole passage. Okay. Well, you'll have it bit by bit anyway. So let's start. Okay. Let's do it this way. Okay. Let's do it this way. Let's start with 31:31.
Okay.
Which is how Christianity looks at it and tries to ignore the verses beginning with 27 before 31.
Okay.
Okay. Let's just start with 31:31.
All right.
Okay. 31:31 says what?
All right. "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah."
Who is the house of Israel? Who is the house of Judah?
And how does Christianity squeeze in there somehow? That's what I want to know.
The way they squeeze in, because it says new covenant, and so to them it's automatically the New Testament.
Right.
But the problem is that who is God making this new covenant with?
Right. Israel,
it explicitly says, "I, God, will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah." Who is the house of Israel? Who is the house of Judah? These are the names given to the northern and southern kingdoms when Solomon's sons split.
Right.
Remember, the sons of Solomon decided, each one thought they should be king. Solomon dies, and as soon as that happens, as had been told to Solomon, the kingdom of Solomon gets split into two, a northern kingdom called Israel and a southern kingdom called Judah.
Right, so the 12 tribes.
So when it says, "I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah," it has to be a time when the two houses are reunited.
Nice. Right.
Reunited, and it feels so good. Okay. All right. So the point is that what happened to the northern kingdom?
Right. Diaspora. They got
and we don't know what happened to them.
Right.
They're called the lost tribes.
Right.
Well, the reason why they're still lost is because nobody has them all back again.
Right.
They have not yet been unified with the southern kingdom of Judah.
Nice, yeah.
So if God says, I will make this new covenant with the house of Israel, with the house of Judah, and yet Israel and Judah have not yet been united, it hasn't happened yet.
Right, agreed.
Okay, you can't get it. It's obvious. All right. Okay, verse by verse. What's the next one say?
Okay, 32. Not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. My covenant that they broke, though I was their husband. Oh, I see how you snuck
By
that
the way,
declares the Lord. Yes.
Declares the eternal.
Yes.
But in the quotation taken from Hebrews chapter 8, whatever it was.
Right.
I'll
tell you in a second.
Let's go back to real quick.
Wow, this thing went way out of the way. Hang on. Really? I'm about to pull that up again, too. I have way too many tabs open. Hang on. Let me go back here.
I never liked Tab. I much preferred Diet Soda, Diet Coke.
Reminds me of Back to the Future. You remember that? Remember the scene when he went back to the future and went to the cafe? He said, "Give me a tab." "I can't give you a tab, kid, unless you buy something." All right, so
not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Eternal.
Right.
Hebrews 8:9. It's not what the text says.
As opposed to being a husband to them.
And how long is the husband? Forever.
Right.
In the analogy with Jeremiah, I think it's also in Hosea, God says, we're like a marriage and I'm divorcing you, but God takes the Jews back later. It's not a full divorce. It's not a permanent divorce. God as husband of the Jewish people is eternal, which we've already established. Okay. Mm-hmm. But when it says, now I just lost it, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord, they're fooling around with the word of God. They're changing the word of God to fit their testament.
Right.
And that's, that's not kosher.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So,
we're on Hebrews 8. Let's just for grins. Let's look at 8:1 real fast. Now the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such a high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty. I want you to pick this out. Pick this apart. On the majesty in the heavens, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle which the Lord pitched, and not man. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices. Wherefore it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer, for if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, blah, 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 blah. So cover this whole little area here, too, while we're in 8.
All right, quickly. Okay. They're trying to make Jesus look like a high priest. You can't be a priest and you can't be king at the same time.
Right.
The priesthood was exclusively the descendants of Aaron, who was from the tribe of Levi. Mm-hmm. And the Messiah is a descendant of King David, which means he's from explicitly the tribe of Judah. So here they're trying to make it look like Jesus is the high priest or something like that, and you can't have it both ways. You can't say he is, king at the same time he's high priest.
Right.
Doesn't work that way. If he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law. Notice the contrast that Hebrews continually makes between the law. Something we could do a whole topic on the antinomianism. How's that for a fancy term?
Which means what?
Of Christianity against law.
Oh, okay. Right.
Okay. Psalm 19, Psalm 119, the law of the Lord is perfect. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The precepts of the Lord are right, delighting the mind. Okay, I mean, the biblical text goes over and over how great and wonderful the law is. Okay, right. And the New Testament, the law's purpose is only to teach you that you can't keep the law. By the way, real quick.
Yep.
Not particularly relevant to our topic tonight, but when Christians start putting down the law, and the only law they can be referring to is the law of the Hebrew Scriptures,
Right.
God's law to the Jews. But even barring that, just taking a general idea of what law is all about, ask them, do you really want to live in a city that has no laws whatsoever?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to drive on streets where there are no laws to how to drive your car? You can do what you darn well please. No stop signs, no stoplights, no speed zones, no speed limits, no school zones, no nothing, no laws. Is that really where you want to drive?
Mm-hmm.
The purpose and function of law is much more positive than Christianity portrays it to be. But be that as it may, that's like its own topic.
Right, sure.
All right.
Okay.
So if let's go back to Jeremiah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Verse
32, I guess.
chapter 32?
No, Jeremiah 31, verse 32.
Okay, got it.
Because we already talked about 31,
speaking
of a time when the northern and southern kingdoms are reunited. Okay. Hasn't happened yet. So this New Testament, New Covenant hasn't happened yet.
Got it. Okay.
So now Jeremiah 31, 32, the next verses.
Okay, so not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in that day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they broke, and although I was a husband to them, saith the Lord.
Right. In other words, the covenant that we made earlier, okay, when I came out of Egypt, is a covenant that they broke, even though I was a husband, which means I'm still married to them. The covenant, like the marriage contract, is valid and stays valid forever. Okay. So what's the covenant that's going to reaffirm and reestablish the preceding covenants? That's the next verse, 33. What does it say?
But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people.
Right. So what does exactly that mean? Okay. God is going to make this covenant with the house of Israel. This is already from before we see, it's the united house of Israel, united once again, the northern and southern kingdoms.
Okay.
After those days, I will put my Torah in their inward parts and write it in their hearts. What does that mean? This is to contrast with the covenant they made when they came out of Egypt. What's the covenant they made when they came out of Egypt? Sinai.
Right.
Okay. What this is saying is that the laws of God will be internalized. Okay. We're going to really believe them and follow them and do them. And we're going to do them because it's in our hearts to do it.
And of course, they like to say that, of course, it's like the spirit of the law. That's why, here's what they say. The reason why it says it'll be on our hearts is because it's not the letter of the law we're supposed to be following. It's the spirit, the inner spirit of the law. So they think it's something different, but it's the same thing, the letter and the spirit. They coexist.
Exactly. When you internalize the law, look, I'll give you an example, okay? The law says that when you're driving along in a residential area, it's 30 miles an hour, okay? Or better still, okay? The law says that when you have a red stoplight, you stop until it turns green. How many of us at 3 o'clock in the morning, we're driving along, we come to a red light, actually stop? The answer is probably almost everybody. Why? Because we've internalized it.
Right. That's a good example.
Even though nobody's there, and even though we're not going to get a ticket, and even though there's nobody looking, okay, we've internalized the law, and we're going to obey the law because that's what we know to be the right thing to do.
Right.
And that's what this is saying too. And here we go again.
That's a great example. Great example.
I'm sorry?
I said that's a great example.
It's really verse upon verse upon verse that explain exactly what this means. Okay, if I want to find out what God wants from me, I have to go look at the Tanakh. Okay, if I want to know what God means by those laws that God commanded me in the Torah, I have to go look at the oral tradition of how we understand that. Okay, the oral law.
Right.
Okay. What this is saying is that I'm going to have those laws internalized. I will know what the text says. I will know what the texts, plural, say. But I'm going to do it because it's in my heart to do it.
Right.
Okay. And again, you got quote after quote after quote. Don't even go to these, okay? Psalm 40 verse 8, I delight to do thy will, O my God. Yes, your Torah is within my heart. Okay, so being in my heart means I delight to do God's will. Okay, or Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret things belong to the eternal our God, but those things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this Torah. Mm-hmm. And I already said Psalm 19 and Psalm 119. The Torah of the eternal is by the way, remember, Torah is not law, Torah is teaching. The Torah of the eternal is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the eternal is sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the eternal are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the eternal is pure, enlightening the eyes. Rejoicing the heart. Okay, again and again and again, what it means to be in the heart means to obey. It's internalized. It's part of us. We don't have to look outside ourselves. We understand it inherently. We've studied it, we've learned it, and we've made it our own.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. 111. They stand fast, Psalm 111.
Okay.
They stand fast forever and ever and are done in truth and uprightness. That's 7 and 8. Okay. Ezekiel 11. Okay. Therefore say, thus saith the eternal God, I will gather you from the people and assemble you out of the countries where you have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel, and they shall come from there, and they shall take away all the detestable things thereof and all the abominations thereof from there. And I will give them one heart, and I will put a new spirit within you and take the stony heart out of your flesh and give them a heart of flesh, that they may walk in my statutes and keep my ordinances and do them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God. Again, what does it mean to have a heart of flesh? Have this in our hearts. It means we keep God's laws. Okay, over and over and over again. Okay, now let's go back to the text at hand and go to 34.
Okay.
Okay, who's going to be coming to the Jewish people? Who's going to be coming to anybody to try to tell us about what Jeremiah 31 and following really means?
Right. I mean,
it's going to be missionaries.
Yep.
It's going to be people who will come to the Jews and others for that matter, not just the Jews, but the Gentiles as well, and say to them, you have to know the Lord.
And the thing is, this is one thing that even I had overlooked as well as a Christian was, if the New Testament time period had arisen, I wouldn't be out witnessing to people because everybody would know. There was no believing.
Exactly.
You would know for a fact. It's beyond shadow of a doubt. Everybody knows, right?
It's what it says.
Yeah.
Okay. You have Jeremiah 31:34 up?
I do.
And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, saith the Eternal, for I will forgive their sin, and I will remember their sin no more.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if they're trying to tell everybody that they have to know Jesus, if they're out missionizing for their God, okay, it contradicts the new covenant.
Let me ask you a question.
It contradicts what Jeremiah 31:31 and following says to begin with.
Right. Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Where's the verse that talks about where? Because I mean, the idea of Christianity is that Jesus came to take away the sins, but the idea of Tanakh and what the Tanakh teaches is that the Messiah won't come until we've gotten rid of our sins, or something like that. Could you touch base on that real fast?
No, because I don't have the
reference
steel trap brain that some people do, and I know what you're talking about, but I can't direct you where it says that.
I'll see if I can.
I don't remember exactly the chapter and verse.
That's okay. I'll look for it. We'll keep an eye on YouTube and see if somebody might be able to call that out. Meanwhile, I'll take a look for it as well. I think it's very interesting. I mean, because it's completely opposite. The Messiah is not supposed to come take away sins or fix you of your sinful problems.
It says yes, exactly. And by the way, what does it mean to take away sin? It means that somewhere along the line, because he died, we're now forgiven for our sin, and that violates repeatedly what it says in the Hebrew Scriptures. Okay, Deuteronomy 24:16 is my favorite. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ezekiel 18, the wickedness of the wicked shall be on the wicked. It doesn't say the wickedness of the wicked shall be on the righteous.
Right.
It says the wickedness of the wicked shall be on the wicked, because they're the ones who did it in the first place. Okay, so the point of this last verse of the initial paragraph that Christians will point to is that if they're out there missionizing, then as soon as they start missionizing, they're proving that this covenant has not occurred yet.
Right, exactly.
Okay, but as I said just a little while ago, this isn't really where the whole paragraph begins. It doesn't begin with Jeremiah 31, verse 31. It begins with Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 27.
Right.
So let's go to verse 27.
Okay. Pull this back up, sorry. There we go. Behold, the days come, saith the
Same
Lord.
beginning.
Yep, same one. That I will
And what does it say?
That I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with seed of man and with the seed of beast.
Right there. Okay. So the days, this future time that he's talking about, again, it says the house of Israel and the house of Judah combined together once again. So no more lost tribes.
Mm-hmm.
We're all reunified. Okay. And what does it mean that God is going to sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man and with the seed of beast? It means we become numerous. It means that we have, back in the biblical period, if you had a lot of animals, you were a wealthy man. Right?
Right.
Okay, so when it says, I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man, with the seed of beast, it means that God is going to basically firm up the Jewish people with population and with possession. Then what does it say? Next verse.
And it shall come to pass that like as I have watched over them, to pluck up and to break down and to throw down and to destroy and to afflict. So I will watch over them to build and to plant, saith the Lord.
In other words, remember that we're talking about the split of the kingdom of Solomon into a northern and southern kingdom. What happened to the northern kingdom? What happened to the southern kingdom? Destroyed. So in the same way that God watched over us to see that we're going to be plucked up and broken down and thrown down and destroyed, so will God now watch over us, building the seed of man and the seed of beast. God will now watch over us to build and to plant, to raise up, to reestablish and firm up, and to make strong the Jewish people.
Okay.
Clear?
Yep.
Okay. Then what does it say? And this is really important in contrast to what Christian theology reads.
Okay. Verse 30, right?
Yep.
Okay. But everyone shall die for his own iniquity. Every man that eateth the sour grapes, his teeth shall be set on edge. And this is the prophecy of the new covenant times.
Right. In those days, they shall no longer say, the fathers have eaten a sour grape and the children's teeth are set on edge. This goes back to Ezekiel 18, okay? And it goes back to a saying among the people of Israel that when a parent sins, okay, eats something sour, the children's teeth go like this, their mouth gets sour, it's sour, which means that the kids get the punishment for the sin of the parents. And God repeatedly says, I don't want to hear this ever again among the Jews. And here God is saying, in those days, they're never going to say this anymore, that the fathers have eaten a sour grape and the children's teeth are set on edge. What does that mean? It means everyone dies for his own sin. Right. And the concept that someone else can die for your sin, this silly little concept, nobody's going to say anymore. Every man that eats the sour grape, his teeth shall be set on edge. Every man who commits a sin, he's the one who's going to get the punishment, not somebody else. not somebody who's righteous, but the one who committed the sin. So here you've got in the same paragraph that talks about the coming day of this new covenant, which reaffirms and reestablishes all other covenants that God had already made with the Jewish people through Abraham, through Isaac, through Jacob, through Moses. All of them are reaffirmed and reestablished with this new covenant. And what's going to happen during the days of that new covenant is that nobody's going to believe this foolish idea that one person can die for somebody else's sins. It's right here in the text.
Ezekiel
it's right there.
Yeah.
It's laid out in Jeremiah 31, 27 to 34.
And then, Ezekiel 18:20 as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Oh, yeah. The whole concept of somebody else dying to take away your guilt for your sin is unbiblical at its base.
Right.
So there used to be this guy who was a Messianic rabbi, and he used to set up on Sunday afternoons across the street, not on the property of, the Jewish Community Center, and it's where people jog and bicycle and all that stuff, handing out his missionary literature in the very Jewish area of Houston, Texas. And some friends of mine would, on occasion, not every week, because they never knew when we were coming or weren't, would stand out with them. Okay, one guy had a sign, I'm telling you, it was this big sign that said, "Fake Jew."
Wow.
And in the front, okay, he'd hold the sign up. It had an arrow, like on a hinge, not hinge. What's it called? Like a brad stuck through it.
Right.
So he could move the arrow facing one way, facing to his left, facing to his right. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And he would stand next to this Messianic rabbi with a sign. He didn't have to open his mouth.
Wow.
And all it would say is "Fake Jew." Okay. One of the pamphlets that this Messianic minister passed out was, of course, obviously on Jeremiah 31 and following. Okay. And I showed him all of this. Okay. I said, "You're out here trying to missionize, but it explicitly says that the days come when you will no longer say to your neighbor, 'Know the Lord,' because they will all know him. If you are trying to tell us to know your God, then obviously this hasn't happened yet."
Right.
And I said, "By the way, what makes this paragraph about the future?" And he didn't even want to answer because he knew he was walking into a trap. And I answered for him. I said, "Behold, the days come, saith the Eternal," means it's about the future. And that begins, whatever the math is, 4 verses before this, in verse 27. Okay, "Behold, the days come, saith the Eternal," is exactly what it says in 31. "Behold, the days come, saith the Eternal." But look what it says. I showed him where it says that when this happens, nobody's going to say anymore that somebody else can die for your sin. His response, of course, was to start speaking in tongues.
Oh,
because
my gosh.
there's no response
Wow.
to "Gabidubul not kitapato." Okay. How do you respond to baby talk?
Yeah, that's true.
So it was, and by the way, so far at least, they've stopped appearing at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And if they show up again, we might be right back out there with them.
Right. Hey, another good one is 2 Chronicles 7:14. "If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will," and offer blood sacrifices, "then I will hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and will heal their land." Sorry, the blood sacrifice part is not there.
Yeah, not only that, but what's interesting to me, every single time you have any kind of national calamity, okay, a tornado,
right,
or a hurricane comes through, you'll see all these Christian churches put up on their marquee 2 Chronicles 7:14.
Wow.
Implying that the reason why the tornado or whatever happened is because it was God's punishment. What is funny, though, if my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, forgive their sin, and heal their land. When they're making the statement that to heal the land, these are the things we have to do, because it doesn't say anything about blood sacrifice, because it doesn't say anything about Jesus dying for your sin or anybody dying for your sin.
Right.
It's actually a denial of their own religion.
Right.
Because if all we have to do to get forgiveness of our sin and to heal the land is call on God, humble ourselves, repent, pray, seek God, stop doing the bad, start doing the good, and God forgives us, none of that incorporates any of Christian theology. So I find it always funny when I see 2 Chronicles 7:14 on a Christian church's marquee, because it actually denies their faith. It's exactly not what they believe.
That's very true. Just about every verse that I've seen where the Christian Messiah or the New Testament Messiah, meaning Messianic, whatever you want to call it, are applied. If you just look only a few verses before and after and just see what else it says,
most, William, it's not just that most Christians only take a look at 31:31 and following. It's that a lot of Jews don't take a look at the context of 31:31.
Right.
Jeremiah 31:31, so that they can notice Jeremiah 31:27 that includes the verse 30, which comes right before the Christian 31:31 and says there's going to come a time when this silly idea that one person can die for your sin is no longer going to be believed.
Wow.
So a lot of people don't look at the context in which they're shown.
That is true.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. I can't get this other guy out of my head today. He's
What was he saying? Something about
it was about the whole
Deuteronomy 14 or something.
Deuteronomy 34, where
34?
The prophet like Moses, and I'm thinking, it blatantly says. I mean, it literally says it crystal clear as a bell, and he was like, no, it couldn't have been him because Joshua never saw God's face. I'm like, well, technically, if you really want to get into details about it, but I was trying to get him away from that anyway, because it's not even the point of the whole verse. I said Moses anointed him, basically laid his hands on him, and later on, even in Joshua, it says that, that he was the prophet like Moses, and it's like it literally says it was him, and the guy's like, no, it wasn't. I'm like, really? Wow, some people just drive me insane.
Yes, I know. I know how you feel. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why do you think the description of Moses in the Hebrew Scriptures sounds so very much like the description of Jesus in the Christian's New Testament?
I've pondered that forever. We've done so many shows. One thing I like is the contrast of the stories that the New Testament hijacks from the Hebrew Scriptures.
Why does it hijack it?
It makes it more believable to the Jewish people. It makes them think there must be associated.
And why did the Christian writers do this? The answer is because they didn't have the first idea of what Jesus did or didn't do.
Gotcha. Right.
In other words, they're using the Hebrew Scriptures like an architect or like a construction company uses an architect's blueprints. They don't know anything about Jesus. Luke, in the first four verses, 5 verses, I'll have to wait and give me a second. Luke 1, 4 verses. Okay. For as much as many have taken in hand to set forth in order a declaration of those things which are most surely believed among us. It doesn't say witnessed.
Oh, what?
It doesn't say witnessed.
I've never seen that before. I probably have, but I just breezed right past it. That's insane, man.
Do you have Luke 1:1 up?
I do. For as much as many have taken in hand to set forth in order a declaration of those things which are most surely believed among us.
Even as they delivered them unto us.
Wow.
Delivered what to us?
Wow.
They delivered the stories from which the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word. They were the witnesses, not Luke.
That is insane.
not Luke.
That is insane. And still, there are no witnesses.
And Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John did not ever shake hands with a Jesus.
Right. And Jesus never told Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to write anything down. And nor did Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John hear anything Jesus ever said.
Right.
Well, maybe.
So here you've got Luke admitting
yeah.
that he's just writing down what was believed among us.
Nice.
Stories delivered to them from people who claim to be eyewitnesses.
Most
now take a look at John.
Okay.
I think it's the very end. It could be 20. Let me check. Yeah, it's the last few verses of the Christian Gospel of John.
Okay, chapter 21.
Chapter 21, verses 23, let's say, and following. Okay?
Okay. Then went this saying abroad among the brethren, make sure it's on screen, that the disciples should not die. Whoa. Then went this saying? Okay, anyway. That the disciples should not die. Yet Jesus said not unto him, he shall not die, but if I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee? Well, I couldn't get much more confusing. Okay,
but now look what it says.
Okay.
This is the... Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, my text isn't your text, so you're showing what everybody else sees. You read it.
All right. This is the disciple which testifieth of these things, and wrote these things, and we know that his testimony is true. And there are also many other things which Jesus did, the which, if they should be written down, every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that should be written.
Right, because Jesus did so much, we can't write it all down. But look at what 24 says. This is the disciple which testified of these things and wrote these things, and we know his testimony is true. Not that John himself saw these things.
Right.
Not that the author of this gospel saw, but he's basing all of his book of John, Gospel of John, on what the disciple is testifying that was true. And we trust him, so we believe it too. So there's 2 out of 4 of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Luke 1, chapter 1, verses 1 to 4, whatever I just said.
Right.
And here, the end of John, they're both admitting that this is all hearsay.
Right. Wow. That's insane.
So
insane, but in text, in your print, in your Bibles, ladies and gentlemen. Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Exactly.
Well, so what are we doing next week? Tell me what our hot topic for next week is.
I don't have the slightest idea. You and I talked about this and talked about last week and the week before, but I don't know what we're going to do now.
Right. Gotcha. That's cool. By the way, what you guys can do, if you want to, on YouTube, call in at any time, 24 hours a day, leave a detailed voicemail, and specify what show you want it referring to. And if you've got a topic that you would like Rabbi Federow and I to discuss, put it on the voicemail for the 855. I'll put that on your screen right now. And so write this number down if you don't have it already, if you got topics you want, or if you put questions up on YouTube and we don't see them for some reason, call in, leave a voicemail and say, hey, this is for Rabbi Federow. Tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then tell us the detailed question, and we will consider it for a topic for the show. So yeah, that'd be fun. That's a much more manageable way of handling things. Makes it easier for me too. I cannot tell you how many things. It's crazy. I've got 4 screens in here right now. I need 2 more monitors to be able to spread these. I've got these things that are kind of hiding each other, and so sometimes when I need to click something, I've got to click it and drag it out of the way, and then click on this, and then drag this back to hide it. And
you screen, we all screen.
We all screen for ice cream. There you go. Cool. Well, it's been fun. So we'll see all you guys next week. Thank you all for tuning in, and feel free to check out Rabbi Stuart Federow on Jewish Mission
I got
Control.
A better idea. How about donating to the cause of Tanakh Talk?
Hey, I would appreciate that. I could certainly use your help right now, for sure, no doubt. So
yes. How about you like what you see? Then put your hands in your pocket and go. How do they contribute?
TanakhTalk.com. Just look for the donate button at the top or at the bottom of the main page. Thank you,
exactly.
Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi. Going back to your app. Your app is really cool. I've mentioned it before. I wonder if I can pull this camera up. I got a camera up close now, and I really want them to see. Sometimes the websites don't show up the way I want them to, and since I've got your app on my phone, and it's really cool, Jewish Mission Control. We've talked about it a handful of times. Let me see if I can find it here. Ephose. So,
by the way,
whatjewsbelieve.org, you can find it there, by the way. Yes.
Whatjewsbelieve.org.
There it is.
And you've got Jewish Mission Control. And only recently, and I don't know enough about it to know why, but Apple Store has taken off my Jewish Mission Control Apple app, iOS app, which was also called Jewish Mission Control. And I honestly don't know what happened.
Okay, well, we've got it on Android, so there it is right there. So basically, each one of those things that you can actually tap on these things. I'm going to move over and scoot closer. I want to show the people what happens whenever you do this. Okay, so let's see if I can hold it steady. So on Jewish Mission Control, you can pick your topic, like blood sacrifice, and you tap on it, right?
And it gives the whole thing. And if you don't have any phone for which you can have an app, just go look at whatjewsbelieve.org or the Spanish translation of a much earlier version, which is called creenciajudia.org.
This thing is so cool, man. I just love this app. It makes it so easy. It's kind of like having Rabbi Singer's book, but in your pocket. But different information is really cool. Original sin, Satan versus the devil. I mean, all your typical arguments. I mean, they're really just a simple click away with hyperlinks and the whole 9 yards. It's really cool. And then, of course, don't forget about buying one of these books for your friends, Judaism and Christianity. A contrast.
Also,
those are awesome books.
The Android, whatever it's called, my book. Thank you. What I was going to say is that the Android operating system changed since last time that I had since I had the newest version of the app, which is not new anymore, written. And all it is the text from the website. And unfortunately, for some people's cell phones or tablets, sometimes it shows up as not being a good one, and the antivirus will say, "Wait a minute, do you really want to use this?"
Interesting.
I promise you, there's nothing wrong with the app.
Right.
But if there's somebody out there who especially knows iOS app stuff, and they can help me recreate my app for iOS, and I'll pay for the licenses. I think what happened is that somewhere along the line I missed the thing that says renew your license or something to have an app on iOS, and they pulled it off as a result.
I've got a person who might be able to help you. The Travis Wirtz, the creator of Tanakh Talk, my old dear friend who lives in Australia now. But he does all Apple stuff, and he's created apps himself. He's built and designed apps, and so he knows the software. So I'll see if I can get you
for Apple or for
Apple,
Android.
Apple.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll send you. I'll connect you guys and see if you guys can figure out something.
Please. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So cool. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Keith says, how much is the book? Judaism and Christianity, A Contrast, is like $19 and change or somewhere around there. Go to Amazon. It's in it's in paperback, hardbound, Nook, Kindle, and ebook.
Mm-hmm.
So go to Amazon.com. You can find all versions through there. Or play.google.com is where you get the ebook.
Nice.
But if you just go to whatjewsbelieve.org, it's all there.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, Rabbi.
And also, don't forget to give to Tanakh Talk.
You're awesome. All right, see you guys. Thank you, Rabbi. Love you guys. And we will look forward to seeing you guys same time, same place next week.
Love you too.
Maybe 30 minutes earlier next week. So, sorry, had a long day today. Take care, guys.
It happens.
It does. Take care. Finger dance. There it is. See ya.
אני אתה אתם תמיד תמיד כולם ביחד חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד איפוק זו העוצמה ויתור זו הגדולה השאיפה והכמיהה אני אתה אתם תמיד תמיד כולם ביחד חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד איפוק זו העוצמה ויתור זו הגדולה השאיפה והכמיהה